Hit it.
Welcome to the Unforgiving 60 with your hosts, Ben Pronk and Tim Curtis. As two ex-SAS guys armed with MBAs, Ben and Tim seek out people leading lives less ordinary and talk with them about how they fill their unforgiving minutes and what helps them go, always, a little further. Like intellectual bowerbirds, we aim to collect shiny little objects of knowledge that we think can help build better humans.
Welcome
To the Unforgiving 60
podcast.
I'm Tim Curtis.
Yep, and I'm Ben Pronk. And we are joined today by one of our favourite guests and a good friend of both of ours, Mark Wales.
And you thought it was for the third time. In reality, it was only the second time.
Yeah, it felt like 3 times. A little bit of Mark goes a long way. And there's a big bit of Mark.
There's a big bit of Mark. He's on 1.5 times.
Yeah. No, we love chatting with Mark inside and outside of the podcast. But we're particularly excited this time to talk to him because he is fresh off a big win.
Yes, on Survivor Blood and Water, where he took home the cash, $500,000, a half brick.
Half a brick, and also had to sort of say goodbye to his wife halfway through.
Yeah. Well, this one was a bit unusual in that it was a partner event. And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the strategy, the tactics, and the idols. We also live streamed this on Instagram. You can pick that up on our Instagram profile at Unforgiving60. But we talk about many other things. Where is he now in the kill Kapture journey? How have jacket sales changed since the end of Survivor?
Since global warming?
Yeah, exactly. Is he more famous?
Yeah.
He apparently is getting invites to all these red carpet events.
My brother Dan got recognised at a kebab shop at 3 a.m. from his reality TV ventures. So we'll have to pick Mark's brain as to whether he's getting stopped in the streets.
I've never been recognised at a kebab shop except for the kebab shop owner. Welcome back, Mr. Curtis. Your usual.
The usual. Double meat with the lot. So we won't talk a lot about kebabs, but we will talk a lot about a whole bunch of things with Mark and probably have a few laughs along the way.
Absolutely. Well, let's get on with the show.
Have you been to India? 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 Well, you better get some of it, India. Have you been to India? There's shit that will blow ya.
And welcome to the Unforgiving 60 podcast. I'm Tim Curtis with my co-host Ben Pronk.
G'day, Tim.
And for the second time in the studio, Mark Wales. Welcome.
Good to be back.
Third.
Good to be back.
Third time?
Three-peat.
No.
I thought it was number 2. I thought it was a sequel.
You're
Didn't we do
you're
Zombie
seeing double.
Apocalypse? Was that the first?
I was absent for the apocalypse.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. We
I was judged in absentia.
backstabbed you in
Sentence.
absentia. But I'll tell you what, it is the first time we're doing is, am I pronouncing this right? Live streaming. Is it?
Yeah. Welcome to the audiences on Instagram.
We're going out simultaneously. This is a double header through the Unforgiving 60, so the 6 followers for the Unforgiving 60 Instagram account, but also the 11 billion followers for our guest this week, Mark Wales.
Mark Wales for the second time. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. A couple of extra followers from Survivor, so welcome to them.
Yeah. Well, let's get to that in a little while. But more importantly, in the first episode, we explained to you that you were killed off in the zombie apocalypse for wearing a leather jacket in Samoa. That wasn't going to be very helpful. But it turns out we were wrong. Because
you're wrong.
You wore a leather jacket. Was it the same one, by the way?
It was the same. No, it was an upgun version. Second time around.
Tell our audience, tell our six followers. Wasn't you had 001, didn't you? The original.
I had the original one.
And how did
that I
it
built way back?
Yeah.
And that actually held up all right on Samoa.
But then you left it in an overhead baggage locker or something?
No, I've still got it.
Oh, you still got it?
Still got the original one. It was like the one after that was kangaroo that I lost. But the one I wore on this season was a newbie. Got a slightly bigger fit, kangaroo.
Is that because you're slightly round around the girth?
I knew I needed to upgun myself for the for the long haul, and so I wore that one, and it was perfect. Good to have another leather jacket out there. I nearly went down every time I went to tribal council because it was hot as shit when I was out there.
Yeah.
But it worked.
It worked.
You've come back with the trophy.
Got stab-proof panels in the back and the side of it.
Well, I mean, how was the Survivor experience?
Oh, it was mad. I went in not expecting much because I'd had the game. You get it pulled out from under your feet. You know, pretty much everyone gets voted out at some point. And so this time, Sam and I were like, all right, if we go in, just go in, assume we're not gonna win anything, and not gonna get to the end, and that's fine. Just play hard. We'll do what we can. And then the further we went in, we're like, oh, we're actually in a pretty good spot here. And then we kept going, and then we got a couple of idols, and then I stumbled through, and then I'm like, actually, the end is kind of right there in sight. And just got through those last couple of hurdles, and then was at the end. I was like, holy shit.
So it was Survivor Blood and Water where you went on. Everyone went on as a couple. You and Sam went on, but there were others that were brothers. Do you reckon it was harder to go on with your partner than it would have been to go on with a brother or a sister?
I think it's easier. If you want to go further in the game, it's easier because you got someone you can trust. Mm-hmm. But if you want to just play, it can be a bit more complicating. If you just want to play by yourself, you can do all sorts of weird shit. But if you're playing with your partner, you got to factor that in because people can get revenge on you by targeting your partner, which I did to quite a few people. So.
And are you able just to stop to air gap that from your subsequent married life? I mean, is it sort of...
Not entirely.
I was going to say, because there's shit that goes down and there's obviously speculation about, oh, gee, Mark's going to cop it when he gets home at certain points. Did you cop it when you got home?
Absolutely. And there are certain things they just can't... They can't show any context to it. They just show a conversation and that's it. There's nothing else attached to it. But they're always the best conversation. They don't show you... being nice and polite to each other and talking about the gardening. They show the arguments. And so we had that. And
reminds me of David Brent in The Office, you know. They don't show a bloke being a good bloke for 20 They show it when he headbutts an intern. Yeah. So yeah, we had the headbutt shown and but it makes for better TV and yeah, I thought it was good.
Is it true to form? I mean, we all know it's produced content, but is it as difficult as it's portrayed? Is it manufactured in some way? We get what the producers want us to see.
There's not
but
much,
how true to form is it?
There's not much that's manufactured. It's the food, the lack of food is real. The conditions are real, and they don't interfere at all. So when you're out there, no one from the crew talks to you. The only person that talks to you is Jonathan that runs the show. Mm-hmm. So it feels very much like a scenario when you're in it, and as you go further into it, it feels more and more real. Mm. And they don't, they don't ever break down that fourth wall at all. They're just like chatting to you the whole time.
Are you ever tempted to do a Jim Carrey style piece to camera?
Oh yeah, I'm like, someone talk to me to make this more real. Yeah. And after a while, you don't want them to. You're like, yeah, we just want to stick in this scenario.
Do you ever actually forget that the cameras aren't there? I mean, you see a lot of stuff on reality TV where you think, Why would you say that? Surely you know that. But do you forget? You get so immersed?
Forget. And you also don't care. You get to the point where you don't care what you're saying because you're sick of it. And yeah.
And how does it compare with SAS Selection? I mean, you told us before we walked in the studio you lost 17 kilograms.
17,
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the physical and the mental comparison between SAS Selection and Survivor?
Selection, you're working, the intensity is so high because you're working your ass off the whole time. But with Survivor, you're only doing physical work at select moments, whereas on Selection, that's all you're doing. So I feel like it was, it's a slower burn, but over time, when you're not eating, it's like 6 weeks without eating much. Whereas what's Selection like just under 3 weeks?
Yeah.
So it is slightly different, but you're by the end, mentally, it does start to break you down. You're starting to get pretty exhausted by the end.
I'll give you the big tip. You don't get $500,000 if you pass selection.
You get told you're barely worthy. You get self-esteem issues at the end of selection.
Well, you don't even get a pass-fail. You're just suitable for further training with the SAS regiment.
With these caveats, 1, 2, 3, it's like it keeps you very grounded, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's good. It's good humility stuff.
There's certainly no tickets to the F1 when you finish selection.
Yeah. Well, what about that? I mean, what about the fringe off the back of Survivor? Has life been busy for you? Has it been crazy with media and social?
Not really. There's you do a full day of media. I did a full day after, and the same thing happened the first time I played. Did basically a full day of media. This time, same thing again, and then a few podcasts after. But that's it. It's kind of no real dramatic change, and there's a bit more because you get more publicity, you get a bit more work. I'm self-employed.
Does it sort of dwindle down? You get mainstream TV, and then some popular podcasts, and then
before you know it,
you end up
then the Unforgiving 60.
Before you know it, you're on Christian radio Newcastle, begging for attention.
I reckon Christian radio Newcastle, and then the Unforgiving 60.
That's it. This is the last stop on the line.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Talk to us about the trappings of reality TV fame. Do you get recognised with great frequency?
Funnily enough, it's not that often. It's always in supermarkets.
Yeah, right.
Woolies staff have a real thing. They all come out and say good day. And all the airplane staff, if you travel, you're on a plane, they all come down and say hello. Yeah, because they love the series.
Well, and possibly also you're in a captive audience there. They can... if you walk past you on the street, it's like,
exactly.
Is that guy? But they know.
They can circle back and be like, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the only time. But I enjoy it because it lasts for 5 minutes. It's not about you. People want to know about the show most often. And it's always kids as well that always love the show and family. So I don't mind talking about it. I love it.
One of the really nasty parts from Survivor was the amount of trash talking on social media, particularly directed towards Sam.
Yeah.
How did you guys address that?
Sam did some posts on it, but I'm like, if you put yourself in the public arena like this, the first time we played, we weren't controversial characters. This time we were because we lasted longer. And so you're always going to get grief with that. But I just didn't really buy into it. I got the shits at one point, and I'm like, all right, no more. I'm not going to read it. And but
everyone says that, just don't read it. But
it's hard.
How hard would it be? It
must be hard. Don't look at the car crash that's about to happen. Of course you're going to look at it.
Yeah.
But I still read it. But I say most of the people that are who has time to go on social media and shit talk people. Like that says something. It says more about you than it does about what they're talking about. By you, I mean them.
Yeah. And a lot of it is me.
I thought you had some dummy accounts going.
No, I'm not very active on social media.
Yeah, it's just it's like you can't, the point is you can't believe the good, because if you believe the good, then you have to believe the bad.
That's interesting.
So you have to ignore a lot of what's said on social media, because most of the time it won't be stuff that you want to hear. It'll be other random shit. But there's a silent majority that don't say anything and they just watch the show and love it, and that's fine.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And look, I don't know, maybe I'll throw a caveat on that in terms of the you don't believe the good. I mean, we haven't received, we're far less high profile, but even just from the book and the podcast and that, we haven't received much negative stuff. We've actually received and love to receive constructive criticism, and we've had a few of those. But it is awesome when people write in and say, hey, seeing that, hearing that, reading that, that helped me, or it came at a good time for me, or whatever. And I choose to believe that good. I like that sort of stuff. And there must be stuff. You talk about kids and, you know, in that kind of role model capacity. That's pretty cool.
It's the same thing with the book. I get many more people writing and saying, this helped me. I'd actually
just thinking about the Northbridge bit.
This helped me understand what I want to do when I'm 15.
What was the Northbridge?
We're not going to do a spoiler alert here for a whole bunch of reasons, but if you haven't read Mark's book, Survivor, in all seriousness, we wholeheartedly recommend it. It is a cracking read, but also, from my perspective, an awesome, a really, for me, accurate reflection of the trajectory of the Australian Special Operations experience in Afghanistan, I reckon. Good, bad and ugly. And I think that will help a lot of people in that context.
And I think the difference is when you do a book like that, you control the kind of the narrative arc much better. If you're doing reality TV, it's their show. Like, they pay for it, they run it, they edit it.
They own it.
It's entirely what they want to show. So that's always been my take, is like, if you want to tell a story, don't post about it. Go on it. Go and get an op-ed written. Go and write a book about it. Do something that's actually, it's not a Macca's version of it. It's a steak and potatoes version of what you want to say. Because if it's something small than that, it ends up being garbage.
Yeah. Well, what about being an author? How has the author's journey gone on reflection? Book's published now.
Yeah, it was about a year ago it was published. I think it was a story that I always wanted to talk about, because all the stuff we went through over there it's super interesting. A lot of people don't want to go back and rake through it again, but I really wanted to. I wanted to, because I thought it would help not just me, but a lot of people as well. But it was mostly selfish. Like, that was a story I just wanted to tell because I thought it was a good story. But I'm really glad I did it. I feel like it's one of those boxes that if I hadn't ticked, I'd sit there when I was 80 and think, I could have done that. But I was too worried about what people were going to think or write. So I'm glad I did it.
What have people thought? I mean, Tim was just reflecting sort of post-Anzac Day. We're worried. Well, worried's probably the wrong word, but we're conscious that doing things like our book, like this podcast, that, you don't want to prostitute the brand. You don't want to sort of be seen to be making money off the SAS regiment, the name, and the blokes and all that sort of stuff. But we do think that there's parts of our experience that can benefit others, and hopefully have presented it that way. I certainly believe yours is a very humble retelling of your experiences. But have you had any negative backlash on it?
No, I think there's been a couple that have said, this is, we're all about humility and this is not humility. And I'm like, you're kind of missing the point. And I think the issues happen for us because you attach so much value to what people think about you when you're in the regiment. And your reputation is what is distinguishing. If you're in the military, you can't earn more money. If you're in the corporate sector, that's one of the ways that people get ranked. But in the military, your reputation is kind of how you're ranked, and you want to protect that. But when you leave, you realise it doesn't really matter. What matters is whether you can bring value to people and whether you can help. And so I think it wasn't until I stopped caring about what people thought that I actually started doing the right thing. And, even just Survivor and writing a book and all that. If I hadn't have done those things because I was worried about what people were going to think, I would really regret it. I think it's silly not to do it. You're going to cop criticism, but I think if you know it's the right thing to do, just do it.
There's a lovely post that you made on Anzac Day meeting Lee Locke.
Lee, yep.
Can you tell us a bit about Matt and the importance of reconnecting with Lee?
Yeah, it was crazy because I was at the dawn service in Perth. I was with Simon Robinson. He was about to leave. I'm like, I'll just go through the garden because I had Harry with me. I'm like, I'll go through the garden and have a quick look. Remembrance Garden in Perth. I haven't been through there since forever, 10 years ago maybe. Walked in there and Lee Locke was at the end of the thing just with some of her nieces. And I was like, it was really cool to see her. Last time I'd seen her was, it would have been 10 years ago. And I'd spoken to her a couple of times since, but not that much. And so to see her there, it's a Remembrance Garden. Matt's, her husband who died, his remembrance stone is there. It was actually really cool.
And of course, for context, for those who maybe haven't read the book, Matt Locke, an amazing SAS patrol commander, killed in Afghanistan 2007. And Mark was his troop commander at the time and very close to the incident. So clearly a really poignant sort of reunion at that time.
Yeah, and Harry, my son, his middle name is Locke, named after Matt Locke. So to me, to do all that, to go through all that, and to meet her again on Anzac Day, just kind of randomly was really cool. Yeah, cool event.
What does Anzac Day mean to you these days?
It's a tough one because I'm not super sentimental, and I don't look backwards. I look backwards a bit, but not. I don't have that whole. I think we celebrate. I think we have that war pornography thing a bit too much. I don't love the way it's celebrated in Australia. I think with good intentions, people have over-indexed on how we look at Anzac Day. But I'm always kind of thinking forward, like how do we this could happen again. It happens every generation to Australia. World War One, Boer War before that, World War Two, Korea, and then the Vietnam, and then our era. So every generation you get some major war. So I was like, how do we make sure this, if we do go and fight, it's got to be worth fighting for. It can't be some random kind of adventure. It's got to be something serious.
Yeah, and I guess careful what you wish for. I mean, you could argue that since World War II, it has been discretionary commitments, and I think a lot of the confusion about our deployment to Afghanistan was based on the fact that you could argue, and Mark, you have argued in editorial pieces that there was no strategy driving it. But shit, when you look at the region, you look what Putin's just done in the Ukraine, this re-emergence of state-on-state conflict is almost baffling. I kind of... Well, we spent our entire military careers in this post-Fukuyama, post-Cold War end of history. You know, there wasn't going to be... exactly. We'd progressed past that. We'd globalised and we got to this point where, you know, maybe we'd do some insurgencies and stuff, but, you know, states didn't fight each other
Just
anymore.
did the little stuff.
But geez, careful what you wish for.
It's funny because this argument keeps coming up as, oh, no, it's different now. But the more you see, like, have we changed that much, or are we still the animals we were, 70 years ago? I think there's a bit of both. I think we have the capacity to regress to that point. So, you've got to be ready for it.
Why don't you just wait here at the bar while I go outside and go around the corner and get our car? We'll leave this old town behind, buy some beer, drive down south till dawn. Or we can cruise down along the coast, maybe park down by the swell. Tune in to the big US radio, 18 million. Party's gone too far this time.
Listening to Kim Beazley, the Governor of WA, on Anzac Day at the dawn service, he talked about the need for us to have a harder edge. And later, talking to him, he said, wait till I'm finished as Governor, it's going to become even more, of a conversation. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Does Australia need to have a capability to project and target, this sort of defence in depth principle that's always governed our white papers?
I don't know. I have long thought that the kind of threats we're likely to face, and I think increasingly likely to face, are probably not the kind of threats that next generation submarines or fighters are going to be able to deter. So I definitely think we need a harder edge. But I don't know, I'm not very imaginative, but I can't see an adversary trying to bridge the sea-air gap. Like, I don't think logistically that's going to be particularly feasible, but my goodness, there's a lot of other ways they can hurt us, and that sea-air gap that works defensively in our favour, combined with the lack of Australian manufacturing and industry and all that sort of stuff, means that we're pretty screwed if we can't get stuff across that sea-air gap as well. And so denial of that, I think cyber's a massive one, hybrid threat, all of these concepts where states may be able to conduct offensive actions short of a military threshold that could be really damaging to us. That's the kind of attack that I guess I'm most concerned about, and that, I think we do need to invest in defences against.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think you need like the mix of the hardcore pillars of long-range strike capabilities, which are always expensive and always take decades to implement. And then you need this whole suite of high-volume, low-quality targeting stuff, which is kind of asymmetric, the whole drones and, shoulder-fired missiles for aircraft and tank. Like, you need a mix of all those things, because you got one that's really high-end, high-cost, takes ages to get. The other can be more reactive, and you can bring in all the technology that's available on the day. You see, like, the Ukrainians are doing this really well. And they're bringing all this off-the-shelf stuff, drones that just carry, random bombs. Like, that's super inexpensive and can destroy $1 million vehicles right away.
Funny seeing, I mean, you look even just from Fallujah to Mariupol, the evolution of, the devolution of the effectiveness of armoured capability. I mean, tanks won Fallujah. You read these op-eds about ex-Marines who said, those things were mobile pillboxes like they were in World War II, and they gave us that foot on the ground. And, when you've got, so much, and I forget the acronym, the British Next Generation Light Anti-Armoured Weapon, basically 20-metre arming distance and can kill a modern Abrams equivalent main battle tank. It's game-changing.
Let's talk about something else that you've shown a bit of emotion about in the recent past, parenting. Let's talk Harry. How's that little piece of your family puzzle going? And
Harry's 4 now. He's over here in WA. It's a weird thing watching kids grow up. He's now at the point where I can like interact with him, engage with him. He talks, talks back. It's a really cool part of parenting is watching him grow up, and it's probably the hardest thing I've done. It's easily the most rewarding thing I've done too.
And you were very emotional having to leave him to go on Survivor. In fact, there were some that criticised you and Sam from leaving Harry. But
it was hard.
Talk about that.
So Sam and I, we knew we were going to have to leave Harry. If we both played, we were going to have to leave Harry with our in-laws. We kind of thought one of us would probably get kicked out before the merge, which means you're back within 4 weeks. We both made the halfway point. In Survivor, the merge is the halfway point. We both made it. We knew we were going to be away for nearly 8 weeks. So, it was a long stretch. It was a long stretch without the young fella. And it's part of the reason we played as viciously as we did. Because we're like, if we're leaving him behind, then we've got to
make it work.
You got to make it work. And I didn't have that first time I played. I was just a random, working in New York sort of person. And
well, clearly you didn't have Harry because you met his mother the first time you played.
Yeah, that is true.
A minor point.
No time travel.
Well, what do you hope for him now that you've seen arguably some of the worst the world can deliver in Afghanistan and experiencing trauma there? Yeah. You've had to have the Kevlar plates in the back of your kill capture jacket. I mean, what do you hope for him? What philosophy of parenting you embracing to?
Yeah, I think the main thing is I don't care what he does as long as he is excited by it and wants to do it to the best of his ability. Whether it's soldering or he's a hairdresser or a dancer in New York, I don't care what he does as long as he loves it and he's good at it. Like that's the main thing. I get asked all the time when I do keynotes, would you be happy with him going to the army? And I'm like, once upon a time I would have said yes, but now I'm like, I don't think people understand what they're doing when they use armies for force. If you look at over the last kind of 50 years in Australia, they haven't done a good job with how they've committed young people to go and fight and the return we've got from it.
Okay, so even as a product of that, do you regret being in the army?
Well, that's the contradiction is no, I don't. It's the greatest thing I've done. Yeah. But then you're like...
I mean, I'm the same, and I do think the military instrument was weirdly used in a place like Afghanistan over that extended period. But even despite of that, and even despite having gone through that...
Still worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you've just ruined my argument. All right.
Although, full-scale war against China is a difference. Objects may not appear as fun as...
as fun as Hollywood.
Yeah.
So you've been no stranger to risk-taking, Mark. What about Harry? Do you allow him to take risks?
Yeah, I think this is a tough one with kids. You've got to get them taking risks young so they do hurt themselves, they do get exposed to things in a way that's not going to... So when they're 21, they get a set of car keys, or they're 18, they don't go and take risks that are just silly. Especially for males. Like, we die at a much higher rate than women do because of risk-taking behaviour. The risk assessment centres in our brains aren't fully formed till we're 25. So you got to get them through that dangerous period just with the best advice you can get.
I mean, one of our co-authors in our publishing stable, can we say that?
Yes.
Pan Macmillan author David Gillespie wrote an amazing book, Teen Brain, which talks to exactly that.
Yeah.
And some really interesting kind of statistical analysis about young males and exactly that point. Brains aren't fully formed till they're about 25. They're doing things in a risky sense, but now with the advent of devices, they're doing them online, which is stopping them from getting locked up for shoplifting or crashing cars, but is also getting them addicted to what he calls danger porn, these sort of risk-taking things in an online context, which arguably have other will definitely have other consequences and dangers.
Yeah, I like the Steve Biddulph rule of 7 too. You know, his in Manhood, he talks about 0 to 7. It's all about mum. You know, it's all about the nurture. 7 to 14, it's about dad. You know, that's your time. But the critical part from 14 to 21, where they're searching for a mentor, and you need to introduce the right people into their lives. Otherwise, they'll go find someone for themselves, and that mentor might not be a force.
Some gang leader.
Some online jihadi.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, we were talking helicopter parenting yesterday.
Yeah, yep.
You described yourself as a bit of a helicopter parent.
Oh, look, pretty loosely. I don't think I'm that bad, but it is funny when you look generationally. I was talking to someone at a function the other night. His father had been alive in the Blitz, and his father used to talk about, you know, the bombs had come down, and then Mum had sent this kid, who was 11 at the time, off to see if Auntie was all right. So he'd be running through the bomb
dodging bombs.
Yeah, shit's burning, and you know the Ambos and Winston Churchill's walking through the rubble, and fuck knows what Mum's doing at this stage. I assume she's got to feed up
a GNT.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's keeping calm and carrying on while you know this 11-year-old
doing the running man
through like a video game, bloody post-apocalypse hellscape. And I've got an 11-year-old son. I'm not sending him out to do a battle damage assessment
on Nana.
Yeah. After the Messerschmitts have come through. So yeah, in that respect, yeah, fucking oath, I'm a helicopter parent.
Call me a bad parent.
Call me, yeah. So I do, I obviously say that jokingly, but look, I think collectively we're a lot more cautious, and I do catch myself being overly protective, and that's what I mean by the helicopter statement.
Yeah. I've just launched my middle child, eldest daughter to London. She's been there a couple of months now.
Oh, no,
although actually into the safe waiting hands of one of our former colleagues. Yeah. So nice soft landing. But I tell you what, even de-risking that, it's difficult. Really difficult. I mean, she sees it. She loves it. She's fiercely independent. And we had a call for a birthday last night, which was awesome. But, you just kind of want to, just be careful if you're going to walk down the street, there might be cars there.
Might be some Luftwaffe bombs.
That's right.
Watch out for Winston.
You haven't lived until you've been locked into a bar and demanded reparations, payments of some sort at the end of the night.
Has that happened to you?
Oh, once or twice in Turkey. Yeah, that's all right.
Let's talk about Kill Capture, the business. Has Survivor and the book moved the needle on jacket sales? And you've been doing some interesting stuff, actually, more widely than the Kill Capture jackets.
Yeah, the book definitely did. The show hasn't yet, but I've kind of taken my foot off the gas since I was on the show. I'm recovering from it, so we're about to get back into it now. And I was just down at the distillery looking at the next booze run we're going to make. But I think...
Are you doing that locally?
Yeah, with WhipperSnapper Distillery,
can
one of
our
sponsors. I don't know, can we?
Yeah, we've spoke to Jimmy McKeown, the master distiller.
Yes,
cool job title, and a cool guy. So we'll link to the podcast with Jimmy because that is an awesome story, and he's an amazing guy.
It's great, and he's now hired Ryan Wilson as his GM, and Ryan's an awesome force doing some stuff with RSL here as well, and started the little veterans part of WhipperSnapper, so supporting veterans.
Yeah, and they're not. There's not. They're doing what a lot of people aren't willing to do, especially in WA. They don't have that. There's a couple of whiskey distilleries out here, but not that many, so they're definitely trailblazers.
So is a Kill Capture whiskey coming?
Kill Capture whiskey collaboration. It's coming out now. We're going to pull out the barrel in about a month, aged in American bourbon, bourbon oak barrels. So
nice.
That'll come out. We're just going to finalise our liquor license and get it sold.
Are you applying the original costing model where each bottle costs you $150? You sell it for $100?
And I sell it for $500.
What's the likely retail price? Because they do a fantastic whiskey, and in fact,
we actually don't know, but it'll be higher price because it'll be a gifting type case with tumblers in it. So it'll be like Pelican case tumblers, cut foam, the whole box and dice. So yeah, it'll
So
be
you'll definitely make a loss.
exactly. We're going to go backwards on this one, but it's all part of the plan.
Oh, well, we'll get our order in. Are you doing something cool like WhipperSnapper versus Kapture or buy Kapture
Yeah,
or
collab.
Whipper Capture or
Multiplied,
something? Yeah, square.
It's like a Run
Square root
DMC. It's like a Run DMC label.
Well, why whiskey? Why do you want whiskey in the Kill Capture stable?
It was more. I wanted, like, with Kill Capture, the whole idea was we'd have something that was a capsule kind of wardrobe for men that from that style of branding, that tough luxury style. And WhipperSnapper were just easy to work with. We always wanted to do whiskey because we thought it was a cool complement to a leather
luxury.
jacket, tough luxury. And just how easy it was to work with them. Ryan and that, it was just super straightforward. It was easy.
Have you got the insert hip flask, compatible?
Oh yeah, well yeah, that's a good point. We'll have to get the hip flask going.
The
That's a bloody good
titanium
point.
hip flask.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be bulletproof.
Bulletproof.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Straight
Take
to
one for the
Ukraine.
team. Yeah.
Donation.
Strap it to the outside of your armoured
Straight
vehicle.
over there.
So we mentioned diversification under that tough luxury umbrella before. I'm seeing a very cool B1 watch on your wrist. So what are you running in the stable now?
So we've got. I'll tell you what I'm thinking about doing. I trialled that small online leadership course. I'm actually thinking about rolling the whole thing under Kill Capture. Yeah, and opening that as like a revenue stream as well, and just trying to. The hard thing is we make pretty average margins on the jackets we make in New York, but it's all the other parts of it that I think will make a really great product, and the accessories are better margin. So it's just a question of how you want to cut it and what your end goal is.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
We'll again link to the Kill Capture brand and jackets in the show notes. I've personally got a Kill Capture jacket, and it's a fucking nice thing.
They work.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's an expensive item of clothing. It's a once-off, lifetime sort of man.
Well, it's not. I mean, in defence of Kill Capture, it's not that expensive.
Well, what I was going to say is, but I mean, it's not your Zara, and I know you hate the fast fashion. That was why you started.
Yeah.
But it is a well-made, high quality. All the components are great, and your point is, we've joked about this, but you're not making massive margins. It's not like a big sort of Louis Vuitton type markup. It is a quality bit of kit, and you pay good money and get an outstanding product.
Yeah. And it's the unit cost, I see it as dollars per wear. So you want to keep that as low as possible for people. So you want something that's going to last forever and be a reasonable kind of price. So that's always what we're aiming for.
And the ladies' version?
Ladies' version, yeah, we've built that. Sammy got the early prototype of that and wore it on Survivor for one jury session, which I survived, so good luck. It's a good luck jacket. Yeah. Pretty sure she didn't vote for me in that one, so that was good. So we're going to roll that out soon.
And we'll link to all of that.
Online courses. So you have released your online leadership and teamwork course. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I did online courses when I was at McKinsey. I thought it was a great way to train people. We were selling these courses for bucket loads to companies, and I'd spent about three months making them. And things have changed totally. There's software now, you can do it quite cheaply. And I had always wanted to do one, so I filmed a bunch of video when I came back from Survivor, rolled out a small course with a tiny cohort just to test it. And it went. It was pretty straightforward, went well. And I'll either keep doing that on its own or I'll roll it under Kill Capture and just keep building it out.
You ever thought... A running joke with Mark and I is the old Rex Kwon Do out of Napoleon Dynamite, but yeah, online self-defense could be excellent.
In fact, we should take some questions. Mark, you're a superhero. Congrats on Survivor from here in the United States.
Oh, mate, thank you. I know they took Survivor off Paramount Plus, which is a massive disappointment because that's the whole US crowd. But there are rumours abound that they're going to do Australia versus the US in Survivor.
Oh, showdown.
That would be a cracker, wouldn't it?
Okay, questions. Oh, they're gone heavy. Morgan's asked, are you based in Australia now?
Yeah, based out of Melbourne and in Perth at the moment, so it's my home state.
What do you reckon is home? Where is home?
WA. I'm a mad sand groper.
Where the heart is.
I've missed it, yeah. It's
Yeah.
good. It's a long way from anywhere, but
What's prohibiting you from coming back and joining the dream team?
nothing actually is prohibiting us. We have a place here too, so I've got no excuse now.
You could become the third host of the Unforgiving 60 podcast.
We've pretty much run out of guests.
Exactly.
What about Fizz, mate? Like, so you lost 17 kilos. You've cut
Yeah.
up for summer, ready for swimsuit season.
Probably the funnest bit is putting it back.
Yeah, I was going to say.
My sponsor.
I was going to say you lost 17 kilos, but Jesus. What are you doing for fitness at the moment?
Just starting to get back into it. Still doing CrossFit at Lilydale, Lilydale Rangers, and now down at the Mill Gym.
Awesome.
So a couple of shout outs there. That's all I'm doing. But
Yeah.
I'm going to have to haul some metal soon because it's a funny thing in Melbourne, man. It doesn't have the same, because it's bloody freezing, it doesn't have the same lifestyle factor as you get in WA and Queensland. So that's my excuse for weight gain.
For the winter coat.
Yeah, that's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
Now, Heston asked that same question, but maybe what your fitness regime was. But how did you prepare for Survivor? Did you have a physical regime? Because there's a lot of that stuff is pretty freaking hardcore.
Yeah.
Or just plain painful.
Yeah, it was funny on Survivor because I was huge, but I actually had a pretty good engine, just concealed under a wetsuit. But I was, what did we do? We did a really high level of general fitness. So we probably did 3 hours of like CrossFit heavy stuff each week, and some of it was personal. And then I didn't do a lot of skill stuff. Like I didn't do balance and throwing and all that sort of garbage.
Well,
I
you
feel
don't
like
know what's coming up, do
you don't know
So,
what's coming.
yeah,
There's
what
no
do you-
point. Like you've got what you got, and I think you're better off building general fitness and don't try and offset your weaknesses too much. Just make sure your strengths are really big spikes, and just ignore the rest. And, you don't know what's coming. I didn't do puzzles, and when it showed when I got to the puzzles. So
What do people do? Do they do escape rooms or something?
people do all sorts of weird shit
in preparation.
and most of it's useless.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if anything, I think the hardest bit is you got to be clear about why you're doing the game. Because if you're doing it to be a character and you want a career in TV, that's very different to if you want to actually go and win it. Whereas this time when I played, I'm like, I'm here to win it. So I didn't give a shit about what I looked like on. I didn't want to be buff. I wanted to be a dad, like a returning dad, trustworthy. Not really military.
Dad bod.
Long hair. Couldn't get my hair cut in Melbourne because we had the lockdowns.
Mate,
So
you
I'm
look like
fuck
you were
it.
putting product in that hair on Survivor.
Yeah, it was. I think that was just
styled.
the dust, mate, the urban dust. But so that was kind of how I went in, and I think that approach was good overall because people were like, oh, he came in as a hard ass last time. This time he's just a random dad. So it worked well.
A couple of questions and comments. Heston says, thanks for the audio reply. You're giving voice messages back to people.
Yeah, I'm
eh?
getting a bit lazy with texting, so I'm starting to use the audio function more. Showing my chops with. Yeah.
I got one from you the other day.
Strongly recommend it.
Yeah.
Just hit the button, chat away.
Yeah.
It feels even more personal. It's like
It does.
It's
Yeah,
better.
no, it's good.
Yeah.
Ryan says, what's your favourite whiskey?
Ooh.
Hang on, is that Ryan from WhipperSnapper?
Well, it was Ryan Wilson 1984. It sounds like it's Ryan Wilson from WhipperSnapper. It could be a loaded bloody question.
That is.
Actually, mine is the Bulgarian oak that I just got given, which is totally out of circulation, but tasted like the angels bloody dancing on your tongue. It was pretty good.
What about you, Timmy? Your favourite whiskey?
I like the peaty stuff, I do. The Talisker 10, that's probably my
dirt.
go-to off the shelf. But what did we do the other day? A Dalwhinnie.
No, I wasn't there. You cleared out the liquor cabinet in my absence.
I got ambushed by a guy who used to be a troop commander with me, and he came in for a beer.
Who?
7 hours later, Del.
Oh, of course he did.
Yeah, he came in for a
Cleaned you
beer, and this is the smallest man ever to serve in the SAS regiment. Came in for a beer, and at the end of the night, there was no beer, and about 2 half-empty bottles, well, the other way around, 2 half-full bottles of whiskey.
Look at the optimist.
All right, this weird bloke called Alex Lloyd has just asked the question, what are you reading at the moment? Firstly, who's Alex Lloyd?
Well, we just gave a shout out to Pan Mac. I hope Alex was listening, but he is our shared editor.
True.
Both
We
of us.
need some free books, I think.
Well, he's no shortage. He's extremely generous with his time, his wisdom, his candour, and his books. He's also the host of a much better podcast, which has featured us at various times, Life on the Line. If you like us, you'll love Alex's podcast, Life on the Line.
Yeah, and actually I saw he's about to release next episode this week or next on Life on the Line.
Yeah.
Yep. So to his question, what are you reading at the moment?
Funny story. I actually was in a bookshop today and saw War and Peace, and I'm like, I have to read this at some point because it's like one of those things that
Quite long.
everyone talks
As I've
about.
heard.
It's 1,200 pages. I'm like, I should actually read this at some point. It would be a great talking point, even though it'll take me 3 months to read it.
Full disclosure,
I haven't read
it's
it.
not cool.
It's not cool.
I don't know. Yeah, you
As a talking
Mind
point.
you, Cormac McCarthy,
yeah.
double header coming in October. 2 books,
new.
new books. And I was really worried he was just going to fall off the perch without writing anything else,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he's been busy, so...
Mark and I have historically been big McCarthy fans.
Oh, yeah. Grim, but good.
Well, shout out to Chris McKinnon at Dad Mod. We spoke at their inaugural sort of live gig, and Chris was kind enough to give me a copy of The Road, which I'd read just after Charlie, my daughter, my first child, was born.
It's different as a parent, isn't it?
Mate, I was literally, I remember being up, rocking her to sleep or feeding her, reading The Road and just crying. I couldn't stop. Yeah.
I was in a cold sweat reading that as a parent. It was bad when I read it first time. It was even worse as a parent. Yeah.
To the point where I've never seen the movie. I can't bring myself to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question on the Unforgiving 60 podcast at Unforgiving 60 on Insta. What does that one say? Can someone turn their head sideways?
Shut up, Tim.
Yeah, it's daylight.
It's daylight where we're all at. Yeah, so we're in Perth, Western Australia, as Mark said before. It is now just gusting quitting time on a Friday.
16 o'clock.
Yeah, which is in the future for a lot of the US audience.
But it's kind of nice that daylight savings finished on the East Coast to just bring us back 1 hour, 1 hour closer to them. The 3 hour
3 hours
time
is too
distance
much.
is difficult.
Yeah.
It's a shitty. It's worse jet lag, I reckon, than going to the UK.
Really?
I can handle 12 hours much better than I can handle that 3. It just
Are you guys on the East Coast quite a bit?
Yeah, we're back. We're
We're back, baby. We're back, baby.
Yeah. We've been locked down. We've been in Fortress WA, obviously, as most Australians would know, for a long time. But yeah, no, we're starting to travel again.
Terrifyingly, I'm back in Townsville next week presenting
wow.
at a Workwell conference
No way.
on the topic of resilience. I haven't been back there for ever.
It's
Really?
changed.
I'm struggling
actually
to
good.
think when.
Strand's cool.
Yeah.
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 I like the Ville. Soft spot.
Yeah.
Go the man cow.
Back to books. What are you reading, Timmy?
What am I reading at the moment? I've gone back to meditations. Yep. So
Marcus?
I'm enjoying just re-leafing through that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been struggling on a few books. I won't mention them, but
As in not enjoying it.
yeah, heavy. I probably
Yeah.
went to neuroscience.
Too deep.
Too deep. I went too
too deep.
Tolstoy.
Too Tolstoy.
You went
You can
full
go-
Dostoevsky.
Yeah.
Conrad.
I mean, on war can only take you so many places.
Oh, you haven't, have you?
No, I haven't.
No
I
one's
haven't
read,
done that.
No one's read Clausewitz.
I thought that I might be smart because I wrote a book, so I thought, I'll just go a bit highbrow on some neuroscience.
This goes badly.
And yeah, exactly. It's not. I tell you what, though, I'm not reading any fiction, and I think that could be
Get into
missing.
fiction.
Yeah.
It's a massive.
Yeah.
Fiction's excellent.
There's a lot of
In
research
fact,
around it too.
I just read Honeybee. Have you ever read that?
Is it fiction?
It's a new one.
Yeah,
Well, the
it's-
answer's no.
yeah.
I just told you I'm not reading any fiction.
Good. Have you read it?
I've seen it advertised. I haven't read it. I think
Awesome.
Pan Mac
Oh,
published
they
it,
might.
but yeah, it was a new one, right?
Alex could probably correct us.
Yeah.
Relatively.
Yeah.
Yeah, Craig Silver, another WA author. Wicked.
WA guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Good on him.
Yeah, Freo
I
boy.
bought Shuggy Bane, which is a award-winning novel, Poverty out at Glasgow. That's kind of the crux of it, but
Yeah, right.
couldn't get into it.
Had trouble.
What about Sapiens? Have you guys read Sapiens?
Yeah, and you know, I just in my little COVID break read Homo Deus, the follow-up. So
Not
you've
as
been to
good.
Tenerife, have you?
I've been to
the-
11 already.
I've been to 11 I've read the sequel. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it.
I mean, I have a stack of books by my bedside table, none of which I seem to get through, including the Andrew Roberts Churchill biography, Walking with Destiny, which is excellent, but it's also about 3 feet thick. Oh, wow. But it's incredible. Yeah, it's the authoritative, they say.
I'll tell you one I just read, which is a totally random purchase, was about, I can't remember the title of the book. It's about something at the Pentagon, but it's about the unidentified aerial phenomena reporting coming out of the US military.
I'm like, just declassed.
Oh my Lord, this stuff is... It's funny because it used to be a fringe topic, but now I'm reading it more. I'm like, no, this has been a area of interest for many years.
Are you a conspiracy theorist?
No. However, most conspiracies are grounded in some form of truth, which is the weird thing about them. And I would never have said that.
Well, do you reckon, so the 9/11 attacks that the CIA planned those?
No, some of those are
a bit
too outlandish.
Yeah.
But what they point to is these underhand operations that are run by intelligence agencies to and the reason they raise them is to avoid a Third World War. They're like, we don't want this either peace or war. We want an in-between option, and that's where they came from. And I think when people argue about these conspiracies, that's what they talk about. They're like ill-founded versions of that.
Well, an extension on that question, are you a believer in terms of UFOs?
I don't look at it in terms of belief. I only look at factual reporting. So they go, these are the facts that came out of the battle group. This is what the radar operators saw. This is what the pilots saw. And that's the bits that I'm interested in. Because then you're like, their first-hand accounts that come from the pilots and the radar operators, they tell a certain story. But I try not to, then link that to some other conclusion that you can't. There's not enough information to say, all right, this is from Little Green Men. And it's not enough to do that. It's something else.
And I think the fact that a lot of those have been released at once, I think there's an implied trend line between a lot of individual data points, which I think, in my opinion, each could be explained quite logically. The fact that they're all dumped on, people think, oh, there must be something, and the fact that it's a government document, well, it must be a conspiracy. I mean, my immediate antidote
it's too much credit to a government.
Exactly. Credit. My immediate antidote to government conspiracies is having worked at the sort of more secret echelons of the Five Eyes governments. We're not that good.
You can't do it.
You can't pull that level of thing off. Yeah, exactly.
What's the link to Hanlon's razor, isn't it? What is Hanlon's razor?
Yeah, never attribute to malice what can equally be explained by stupidity. Yeah.
Question from Luke. I have not read this book, so I'm going to throw to you guys, and I'm not sure whether it is have you read it or did you like it or do you agree with it? His question was Chris. Not read it. Chris Masters' book, ?
Not read.
No front line. Is that it? I think that's it. It was like
I know what he's talking about. The sort of tell-all kind of thing.
I thought you might have been interviewed for the book. Or...
I refused.
Okay.
So Chris
why was that? Didn't feel right? Or...
Yeah, it didn't feel right. I refused him. I refused... what was the previous one? Who wrote The Amazing SAS?
Ian McPhedran.
McPhedran, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's never felt right. Yeah, not any sort of moral objection. Certainly nothing to hide.
Ian McPhedran also wrote Soldiers Without Borders, which I was interviewed for. There's a chapter on me. And I thought actually...
Oh, no, I remember seeing a photo. There was a photo of you too.
Good one?
The tiny black and white one.
Skip a seat at the
You might have seen it before.
Might not be me, dude. Wearing a balaclava. Yeah. I mean, no disrespect to Ian McPhedran, but I thought the book could have been done much better. The concept's great. So what are former SAS guys doing now? What's their life through uniform brought them to?
By better, do you mean more about you?
My chapter could have been much longer.
and on the cover. And the only...
But it's an interesting concept. I mean, we often... There's a lot of people...
It's such a funny thing, the relationship with journalism and the special forces world, isn't it?
Oh, particularly now we're seeing a lot of negative reporting, and that's the right of journalists to voice that. But often what gets missed, and you saw me talk about this the other day, is the context. They just write an article without understanding contrast, context,
Mm.
and I'd argue in complex environments, the context is actually critically important. And
Yeah.
actually, the
It's a
context
huge
sometimes
deal.
is nearly impossible to
But
explain.
that's why I've done articles and op-eds is like this, is that those little chunks of information that people are like, oh, we didn't know that, because most people from that world don't offer that context. That's an important part of the discussion. So
Well, we are taking questions on at mark.a.wales. What's the A stand for?
A for Adam.
Adam. Have
Pretty
you seen
cool
the Adam
middle name.
Project? Have you seen the Adam Project?
Yeah.
Good little movie, easy to watch.
No.
Check it
not.
out, Mark Adam Wales.
It's a super, pretty boring middle name. Would have preferred Harley or something like that, but that's all right. Forgive my
Locke.
parents here. Locke.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Locke's a very
that's
solid.
hardcore.
Yeah. What about music, mate? You getting into anything new or rediscovering anything old these days?
Yeah, you know what? I built a running playlist,
Oh, cool.
and I added some classics that I'd listened to recently, but also some newer stuff. So like some newer stuff from the Killers that they just released in their last album.
Mm-hmm.
Brought the Foo Fighters back after Taylor Hawkins died.
Yep.
That was a tragedy. I've never been upset about an artist dying until that happened,
Right. Yeah.
because I feel like we kind of grew up with them in particular, and everyone makes fun of the Foo Fighters, but I love them. Who else? They're probably the top few. Nothing too crazy.
Any change to your power song?
Oh, you can't go past Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, that's what you had last
So
time. You
been-
stayed
I've been
consistent.
chucking a bunch of Rage on
it's
my running
old
playlist.
and hard-hitting.
Yeah. Guerrilla
Like-
Radio,
Oh.
I'd never discovered.
Millennium Homes.
Yeah.
Great.
Mon Georgieva.
Yep.
What was that song that's now on the Unforgiving
Sounds
60
of
playlist?
Madness.
Jeez, that
Yeah.
is a ripper.
Sounds of Madness at Shinedown.
Shinedown.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
that's going straight into the play.
Oh, it's a cracker. It's a good running song.
I tried to put a soundbite into the previous episode where we were talking with
Yep.
Nick Nevin about what is your power song.
Yep.
And apparently you said that we could get sued.
Mate, well, you, no,
Apparently that's a thing.
I'm not scared of Shinedown, but you put some Guns N' Roses in, mate. Axl Rose,
He'll come for you.
full disclosure, does not listen to the Unforgiving 60 podcast, but that dude is litigious AF. There is no way your little Welcome to the Jungle excerpt wouldn't have gone, buddy.
But you know that'll increase your listenership by a long way if you can do a litigation battle.
Yeah, which is great. Well, while we're in jail.
Well, in the meantime, we'll have to accept the very generous offer from the externals for their royalty-free music.
Yep.
Ben Freeshow, a good friend of ours who's
Yep.
done a couple of pieces for us on the theme of resilience, which has been cool. Nick Carley,
Yes.
also given us some access to tracks.
Yep, Mitch Martin.
Mitchell Martin, amazing young local talent
Yep.
who's pretty much opened his albums for our use.
And, for our listeners' pleasure, I often chuck
Some of my own little numbers.
some of my own little numbers.
Well, you were asking the question on what you were not good at.
Yeah. Well, did I ever tell you? Do you want to hear about Little Bird, that song? Have I told this story?
No, but I'm looking forward to inserting it right now.
Yeah, this song.
Little bird, take me home, don't leave me out here on my own now. Said little bird, take me home. Little bird, take me home, I will follow where you've flown now. Said little bird, take me home. Bathe me in your love.
Anyway, recorded in Tikrit in Iraq.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it was a song I was on exchange with an American unit, and it was inspired by some helicopter gunship support we had coming back from a mission.
Yeah, what's it about? It's the song Little Bird.
Yeah. Well,
Where the chorus is Little Bird, take me home.
Take me home. Yeah. It is about that warm feeling you get in the bottom of your heart when you've got some badass helicopter gunship support when coming home from a gunfight.
I have to admit, sitting on the skids of a Little Bird, that's a box that would be worth ticking.
I did that once in that same profile and flying down the Tigris River, like onto a
Palm
target.
trees.
And literally landing, I reckon, less than 2 metres away from the guy we were trying to apprehend. And he's just like this dirt farmer at night.
Even he's like,
What the fuck? And
That's
then,
awesome.
Yeah, I took 2 steps and we apprehended him. It was pretty cool.
that's
It was,
pretty cool.
but it was also, I mean, you could see as you flew down, people flashing lights and warning,
Wow.
down the river as you're approaching.
One of my mates I went to business school with was a little bird pilot. Yeah. Miguel Gaston. And, we were classmates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
160th. Yeah,
they're
really
badass.
cool stories. Yeah.
But this song, so I'd written while we were on that deployment, and we shared a base in Tikrit, which was Saddam's hometown. We were living in one of Saddam's old palaces. But the wider base that we were on was a 1st Infantry Division footprint, massive American, setup. And they had a band deployed. Never go to war
As you
without
do.
the One ID band.
Hang on. Tell the truth. You were actually on exchange to the band.
Exactly.
I was the percussionist.
and you saw a little bird.
I saw a helicopter, which someone later explained was a little bird.
I got a fever.
And I got expired. I got a fever for some cowbell. And in fact, it's funny you mentioned that. So I recorded this with the One ID band. And the outro to Little Bird, which you've probably just heard or will hear, contains a lot of cowbell because we had a fever.
Keep me pushing forward, hold your shield above.
And the cowbell was played by our JTAC,
That's awesome.
Little Mike, who was an absolute hitter from the a very high tier.
Little Mike.
Yeah.
There's always a mic.
Tactics of a different type. Can we take a question from Alia? Why play your first idol on Survivor is her question. Or their question.
First Idol was a good play because my name was up. And I did actually a little bit of tradecraft with Christy. I'm like, all right, if my name's up, Christy was my tight buddy in the other in the later part of the game. If you hear my name, put your white sandals on my backpack. If I come back, great. I know my name's up. Just play my idol.
Ooh, a little dead letterbox.
Easy.
The dead letterbox.
DLB.
Little deal. I don't even need to talk to you. Like, just whatever. I saw a group of people chatting. I'm like, I bet they're talking about me. Came back from fishing. Sure enough, white sandals are on the bag. Play my idol that night. I think I'd held that sucker for 3 weeks. Anyway, that night my name was up. So I dodged getting voted out. Second idol I played my name wasn't up. So, yeah, that was a waste.
Wasted idol.
Yeah.
False idol.
False idol.
How many challenges did you win?
I won 2 immunities, personally.
Mm-hmm.
And then our side, we won tons in the team ones. We won a fair few. Yeah.
Do you look at an immunity and think, oh, I'm gonna just tank in this. This is not me. And you look at others going, yeah, I'm up for this.
There were so many. I was like, I'll stand here to not look like an idiot. I'll wait for a couple of people to go out, and then I'll be out because you don't have the energy to spare. And when you're not going to win, don't fight the battle.
Is that in itself a little tactic? That,
Yeah.
You go, no, I'm not
Don't elevate your threat profile.
Yeah.
If you get second in a challenge, it's the worst possible result.
Yeah, because you haven't won.
Because you haven't won
gassed
immunity,
yourself
you've gassed yourself,
and you've put a
and you're a high
target
threat.
on the
So
back
why
of your
do
kill
it?
capture.
Why do it?
Yeah.
I'll just bow out like a loser.
You say the target on the back of the kill.
On the back of the kill capture, you've just painted a big old crosshair next to your white sandals.
Well, actually, last time we talked about the kill capture hatchet or Bowie knife.
Oh, knife. Yeah, from one of the instructors that I had, who was a guy from 2002, Ross Jones, knife maker. Yeah, so he's going to do a batch for us at some point, and we'll sell them off.
Very
Couple of
cool.
straight blades.
More
suckers.
tough luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about all those little bonus parts of Survivor where you go and, I don't know, eat pizza or have a night
the
away?
rewards. They're pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, if you win a reward challenge, you get to take a few mates, go eat some pizza. I got taken on the KFC reward. That was pretty good. I go on a KFC reward every day when I'm back home. But
I was going to say, you've obviously been rewarding yourself.
You would have lost 25 kilos, but you only lost 17 because you went on a KFC reward. Hi to KFC, we are open to sponsorship.
Yes, they're good though. But when you go on one, you got to keep your eyes open because there's always like a reward lying around that can help you find an idol. So everyone's watching your mate to make sure that if they find a scroll or something like that, you know to follow them when you get back to camp. Yeah.
What's next?
So I actually don't know. We've had such a busy 6 months. We're going to relax for a bit and just chill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's been full on. So yeah, we're just going to take it easy, but definitely be giving Kill Kapture a good push. Mm-hmm. And we'll have to get a joint event going on the East Coast at some point. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We got some ideas we want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
We need to fund that with ticket sales. Big night out.
I reckon that'd be a good double header. Yeah.
Might just make enough money to get some cask wine.
Apparently, we've got some free whiskey.
Yeah. KK
out of the Kill Kapture barrel.
Uncasking the keg.
Yeah.
What's left at the bottom of the keg must be ours.
Yeah. No, I like it. Well, listen, mate, it is always a pleasure. I thought it was 3 times. Obviously, the first time felt like 2 eppies, but it's great to have you back, mate, and particularly good to see you back over here in WA.
Mate, good to be back. Thanks for having me in the new dojo. It's fucking awesome.
No, I love it. And thank you to everyone and anyone who sort of listened in on the Instagram Live. Very much appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mark.
See you later.
Now to the debrief. We try to go always a little further in this podcast and greatly appreciate your input. Please let us know your feedback, the good, the bad, or the ugly. Also, if you know someone who is living a life less ordinary, we'd love to hear about them. You can get in touch at debrief@unforgiving60.com. That's debrief@unforgiving60.com. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends and write a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Until next episode, keep filling your unforgiving minutes with 60 seconds worth of distance run. See you next time on the Unforgiving 60. Come into my bedroom.